The Silvas with the Silvas Media Channel. I wanted to let you know this in case you haven't seen the news, which has been all over the news. If you have been under a rock or in a cave somewhere, I'm going to give you some video that maybe you didn't see and pictures that you didn't see that was on the news, but this is publicly out on search engines. The title of this is "To Never Lose Hope." And thank God the three girls were found that were kidnapped. We're going to show you some pictures here. This is for law enforcement and also for neighborhood, for parents and for educators and even for our FBI. This is some things we can learn from this if we haven't learned them so far. Like I always said, there should always be a neighborhood watch program where there's a support system with people and parents that have children in your neighborhoods, in your school systems, where you can watch your children. When you go to the store, don't have them by themselves. You know, when you go in a neighborhood, they shouldn't go and play off by themselves unless there's parental supervision. And the parents don't have to be there holding their hand, but they need to watch them like they're in sight where you can see them. You know, and parents need to be encouraged to work out a plan with other neighbors who have children so that you can watch your kids. But anyway, I'm going to tell you the story. That way this stuff will not happen, so they can't be lured away by a would-be predator or pedophile. So anyway, this happened on Monday this week in Cleveland, Ohio. All right. Heard a girl screaming. Said a neighbor heard Amanda, and that's how they discovered the other women. All right, there are 3 victims here. 5 babies were found. One of the victims had 3 miscarriages because they were severely malnourished. Yeah, that's what it says. Suffered 3 miscarriages because she was malnourished. All right, now here's one of the suspects here that were captured and are arrested. And that's where they need to be, sickos. Here's another one. These were brothers. These are 3 brothers. You know, 3 brothers that did this horrible crime to 3 women. All right, and there's the other one. And they're all in custody now, okay? It's not like they're not in custody or anything, because they're all arrested and they're in custody. These are the 3 women here. Of course, the one that's a minor still, she's the minor, the one that's face is all distorted because she's a minor. These 2 are over 18. That's why their faces are not distorted. But those are the girls that were found at the home. So there were chains hanging from the ceiling, and they were gagged and they were tied up. That's what they told the authorities. These girls were kidnapped. This is what I tell you about the Neighborhood Watch program that you should have in your neighborhoods. If you have kids and you have parents, you should have this in place. If you don't, you need to work on a plan to get this in place so your children can be protected. Don't mean you got to be out there with them every time when they're playing with their friends, but just be in eye distance, you know, where you can see them when they're under 15, especially. Because all these people, well, one girl was kidnapped and she was only 16 years old. She was getting ready to have her 17th birthday, as we'll see here in a minute. But it says here, the real hero here is Amanda. That was one of the girls that was kidnapped. She was screaming, you know, at the time, and that's how the neighbor discovered her. And this is their photos of what they look like at the time when they were missing. Amanda. This is how, well, actually, this is what they look like now, I guess. It says, right now, when they found her 10 years later, this girl was 26 years old, all right, on the left. And the other girl that's on the right with the brunette hair, she was just 23 years old. So these are the 2 girls that were over 18. Of course, the one that was underage, you know, with the face out, this is a frontal view of the house where they were in captivity. Okay. Of course, you see the FBI vans here. And you see the chief that gets on there talking about it. Talking about FBI, where they found these girls and how they were all united with the parents. I've been there where children have been united with the parents. You know, there's a 75-hour window when children are kidnapped. And a lot of times it's not always a pretty picture because it's not always them being alive. But in this case, they were alive. But all these girls are going to have to go under psychological evaluations and therapy. You know, because they're never going to be the same. They've been robbed of their dignity and of their childhood, and they've been robbed of their own personality, and they've been robbed of their own psyche. So they're going to have to regain all that back through counseling and therapy. And you know, it's good that we found that these people were brought to justice. The bad brothers, the 3 brothers that were molesting these girls and kidnapping these girls. But this is a guy speaking about that in Cleveland, Ohio, at a conference to the press on Monday afternoon. Cleveland FBI specialist agent, his name, it doesn't say his name, agent, and who was in charge of the Stephen, I think it's Stephen Anthony, yeah, that's his name. Stephen Anthony is the agent, and who was speaking to the press conference that they had there after all these people were brought into custody and the girls were brought to safety. This is an aerial view of the house in question, where the girls were held at captivity against their will. This is a community view of the house, aerial view of the community. So, you know, these girls are only kidnapped, like I said, only 3 miles away from where that house is, where they were brought to be in captivity. Where they were kidnapped, where they were all on the same street. They were all kidnapped only 3 miles away. And this is where they were kidnapped at, held against their will. All of them. All right? And then as we see here, we see the FBI, I don't know, they're digging up. Maybe that's where they buried some babies. I don't know, because they had 3 miscarriages, and I think they might have buried the babies there, and that's what they were digging up. This is another view. This is a view of the house. This is a front door where they smashed in to go in there to get the girls, the other girls that were in there, out. But like I said, all these girls are in custody right now. These 3 brothers are in custody right now. They're arrested, and these sex offenders are off the street. They're not going to be out in public wearing ankle bracelets. They're in prison for this crime, holding 3 girls up against their will. See in here, you know, we have one girl that was coming home from school, and we have another girl that was just, you know, riding home from Burger King after she spoke to her sister and she was kidnapped, you know. And then the other girl, I think, was just lured away from one of these brothers. And here, you know, here it talks about that. Yeah, let me go back here. Yeah, it says Gina was 14 and went missing, you know, on April 7th, 2004. Yeah, so, you know, she was 14 when she went missing. All right, and see this girl, the other girl, see I highlighted, she was missing just walking home from school. See? It says Amanda disappeared shortly after she called her sister to say that she was getting a ride home from her job when she was employed at Burger King. So that was Amanda. And then, and of course, and one of them, the youngest one, she was 14. This is a picture of, I guess, them when they were younger, when they were abducted 10 years ago. You know, the 3 girls. And of course, the minor one, yeah, this is, the minor isn't going to be shown because these girls are above age, but the youngest one is not going to be shown because she's still a minor. 2004, okay, yeah. So this is them, they're in custody, everybody's hugging each other, being united back with their families, it appears. There's the neighbor that found Amanda right there. That's what it says below the picture because I've already read it. So, you know, there's hope for these people, and all they're asking is just to keep this alive. So what we need to do is keep this alive, because this is something bad that happened, and it's something that we need to rethink as a community, you know, as a neighborhood and as a school system and as law enforcement, how to keep our neighborhood safe from would-be predators. Because remember, these predators were only 3 miles away from where the girls were abducted, off the same street. In 10 years, within a 10 to 12 year span, each one of them were held at their will. There were 5 babies they had, and we don't know if anything happened to the babies when they were born, sexually or anything. But I'm sure if anything did, it will come to light. But anyway, I just want to give you this. We need to really rethink about how we do things in our neighborhoods. We don't need to be there holding our kids and being scared of our shadows, but we need to have a site where we can see our children when they're playing. We don't have to actually be there with them when they're playing with their other kids, but we need to be able to see them. Or have neighbors that are trusting, that you can trust to watch your children. Supervision, so they can be trusted and they will look out for your children. And take turns and alternate. Work out a community watch system. So this is something we can learn. So anyway, this is my update from May the 8th, 2013. Michael DeSilvis with DeSilvis Media, the Freedom Network. And this is a horrible thing that happened, but I'm so glad, and my prayers, thoughts go out to the families that this horrible crime has happened to these children. We need to really prevent this from happening anywhere else in our country. So we don't have stories like this, because they don't always end up like this. After 75 hours, things like this don't happen. They're usually found dead. So we need to really watch our children when they're outside playing and come up with some system. You need to get to know your neighbors. Start talking to your neighbors, because if people talk to their neighbors in Cleveland, Ohio, or anywhere else, because a lot of people don't talk to their neighbors that much anymore. They kind of stay to themselves. This probably could have been prevented. It would have not have happened if people knew more about it. And people knew about them at, where they worked. And if the parents picked them up at Burger King, this would have probably not have occurred. So, that's what I'm talking about. We got to get to talk to people. We got to have a plan. It's Michael DeSilvis, Freedom Network. Please pray for these women. Please pray for the children, the babies they had. Please pray for the whole situation, that they'll get the therapy and the love and the care and the compassion and the support and understanding from their families and their friends. Thank you. And this is my blog entry for May 8th, 2013. Having trouble here, so that's stopping.